Alright, let's finish up on this LT1 today. Windstorm came through. It was really windy last few days and it pretty much blew all the leaves off of it. It's just pretty cool. There's still some leaves caught up in there, but it blew most of them off. It was covered in leaves. See all those dirt markings? That's where leaves were. Hey, it's a leaf paint job. No. Alright, let's get the back end up in there because we gotta have that up in there to put the drive shaft on. Alright, the rear end's up in the air on jack stands and got the jack back there as insurance. Let's slide under here and get oh, I got all my bolts and tools hopefully that I'm going to need. We'll slide under here and get it done. Alright, so the first thing I did was I took a 1/4 inch extension, stuck up in this hole. To line that up, I went ahead and put a bolt in. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and get a bolt started. And then, which I'll probably have to jack it up on that side for a bolt to reach. But I'm going to, since I'm over here, I'm going to go ahead and put the shifter cable on. I left the 2 bolts loose that it goes on. Put that on, and the end piece, it just pushes up on it and snaps on it. So go ahead and put that in, and then I'm going to zip tie this O2 sensor out of the way like it was before. So that's what I'm going to do next. There we go. Make sure you push that all the way on. Make sure it snaps all the way on. And just 2 bolts there, and that's it. And oxygen sensor wire on this side. I zip tied it out of the way. And it's zip tied out of the way up there. So all good there. Let's go ahead and jack the transmission up and go ahead and get the cross member back on. Alright, transmission cross member's in. I got all 4 bolts lined up. I couldn't get it to line up. I stuck a 1/4 inch extension in one hole, lined it up, and put the bolt in the other hole. I did that on the other side also. And then I made sure I could get all 4 bolts started before I tightened them all the way up. But they're all the way tightened now. Now, let's move on to the drive shaft. Put the drive shaft in. Alright, on the drive shaft, you stick it in the back of the transmission and you push it in as far as it'll go. You line this up. You might have to turn the rear end. That's why we put the rear end on jack stands. And then you pull it back into the saddles. Once you got it into the saddles, you can go ahead and, well, he left this one on there. And it won't flip around over it, so I have to loosen this bolt up some. But yeah, you put these U-joints, yeah, whatever you call them. Put those over, put the bolts in, and tighten it up. And there we go. Drive shaft is in. The most important thing on this is don't let the caps fall off. Because if them caps fall off, you're going to be hunting for needle bearings. And then you're going to be trying to put them all back in the cap. And then you're going to try to put them all back on the U-joint, these caps right here, without them falling out, and it's a real pain in the butt. So do not let them caps slide off the U-joint. Alright, next up, let's hang this exhaust up here. These just use 3 bolts, and there is a gasket that goes in there. There's a gasket that goes on this kind. My pace setters, they were slip-on. They just slipped on and used a clamp. These use 3 bolts and a gasket. So one thing I did forget is this torque arm. Now, his does not have the very top bolt that goes all the way across. It was missing. Whoever was working back here before, I guess, didn't want to put it in. I can understand why, because it is really, really hard to put that top bolt in there. But his, just put this bracket here, pull down on the torque arm, put the bracket in the hole actually, and it'll kind of can out this way some towards the firewall or tunnel there, transmission tunnel, and then pull down on the torque arm, get it in the groove, and then push that clamshell shut, and then put that, there's a 13mm bolt up here. I don't know if we can, it's hard to even get your hand in there. I doubt y'all can see it, but yeah, it's up there. And then put that bolt in, which was hard enough with the transmission up there as it was. I hope y'all didn't make y'all too dizzy. Now, if that top bolt had to go in, I never would have got it in. There's no way. So yeah, it is better to leave the transmission crossmember down, so the transmission is angled down. Makes it a lot easier to get that in there. All right, I got this side hung. Now I gotta go over and hang that side. Now I gotta tighten them up. All right, I got the exhaust all bolted up. It was not easy lining those up. They did not want to line back up. It does have clamps back here, and I loosened the clamps, but it wouldn't move inside there. They get stuck in those. But next up, oh, almost dropped the phone. I'm gonna put the torque converter bolts in, and I'm gonna use some Loctite on those. And you gotta spin the flex plate around a little bit when you put these in. So you put one in. I usually tighten it up, and then I usually stick a pry bar up inside there, or you can just turn it on the wrench once you get that bolt tightened, and hopefully get the other one around far enough to get the bolt in. But this one right here, some of them do a bolt and a nut. This one just takes a bolt. This has got the dual pattern on it. It's got the pattern. The torque converter has the holes for the turbo 400 and the turbo 350. Now this should only push forward. There should only be a gap. This torque converter all the way back, there should only be a gap. I forget what it is, but I'll put it in some writing down there. But yeah, I think it's a 1/4 inch to 3/8. No, I can't remember. I'll always forget those numbers, but that's plenty of gap there. That's good. You don't want too much, and you don't want too less, because this torque converter, it goes back and forth, you know, as you're putting pressure on it, and it'll wear out your thrust bearing in your motor. But yeah, I'm gonna put all 3 of them bolts in. All right, torque converter bolts are all in and tight. Now I had to start them all, and I stuck a pry bar up in here, like a turn. If you wedge it in there just right, you can turn it. And I turned it around. I got all the bolts started and in pretty far, and then I went back around and tightened them all up. That's it for that. Now down here, really, I'm gonna put the radiator, the fans in from down here, and then zip tie up some of this wiring nest. Plus I gotta fix some of those wires, because I need to be able to pull that further up in the engine bay to clear the AC box, because I don't know, but yeah, zip tie up some especially that wire right there. Gotta zip tie that up, and then put the radiator and the cold air intake in. That's pretty much it. It'll be done. The PVC grommet I ordered came in. When you go to the parts store, they'll usually sell you the one that goes over there on the intake. That right there. That's not the right one that goes in here. the parts store don't even have the right part number. But if you look up on Shoebox, they'll give you the right part number, because the one that goes in the valve cover, it don't fit that hole. Ask me how I know. Alright, so put the steering shaft bolt back in also. Now unfortunately that wire is kind of stuck between the header and the body of the car, and I don't like the way that runs down through there, so I might have to figure out something with that. And then still need to put those 2 bolts in, so I got to run this parts store and get those 2 bolts because I'm not using them torque heads one. And then I also got to get some of those clamp pieces that clamp the, because I took the AC condenser off the radiator, so I need some more of those things that'll hold the transmission cooler to the radiator, because I'm gonna put the radiator in next. I'm gonna deal with them wires last. I'm gonna go ahead and put the radiator in and put the radiator hoses on and put the fan in. But I gotta go to the parts store, get those 2 bolts and those pieces that hold the transcooler to the radiator. Alright, I got new strut tire bolts from the hardware store. And I bought these things for the radiator. They're just pushed through and zip tie, and they got these little padding pieces for the transmission cooler. It's got those little plastic piece or foam pieces that has sticky back on them. You just put those on there like that. Put that right there where you want to put it. Go about right there. Of course, you want to measure your lines, make sure all that's going to reach, but I already know that will. And then take these right here and stick them through there, making sure not to put it where the your sticky back is. And you push that all the way through, put that on the other side, and you cut off the excess, and it works just like a little zip tie. Alright, now I threw the fans on it. I'm going to try to drop that in there as one full unit. I've never really done that before. I've usually always put the radiator in, then put the fans on, which is a huge pain in the butt, because these pieces, these tabs that hold the radiator on, they don't like to go over the hose part on both sides. So kind of takes some maneuvering to do that, so we're going to try it this way. Well, that did work, but I had to take this piece out, which that piece will be easy to pop back in there now that it's in there. But on these, the bottom of the radiator, there's a rubber pad on this side, and then there's a rubber pad around the drain on this side. This side has a drain, and that rubber pad, there's a hole in this side, and that rubber pad goes down in that hole, and I've got to get under it and check it. But you see the rubber pad on that side? No, I can see it, but y'all can't. But yeah, let's put that plastic piece back in there, and then I don't even use that on my car, I take it out. But that does help channel air up from the air dam to the radiator. See it? It hits that air dam down here, and then that shoots the air up in here, and this piece and this piece channel it to the radiator. So that's how that works, because there's no real way for it to go through the front of the car. So them holes there, but the fog lights are in those holes. But yeah, let's put this on. I'm gonna hook all the radiator hoses up with that one, because I'm gonna take that and the thermostat out, and I'm gonna fill the block with coolant first, because if the block don't get water, and just putting water through the radiator isn't going to fill the block up. it's not going to do it. And if it don't get hot enough for that thermostat to open, which it won't with just air, then it'll sit there and overheat, and the radiator will be cold as can be. So I usually fill the block up first through the radiator or the thermostat hole. Then I just went ahead and put the shroud on. It got rubber pieces in here. They go up inside there. That side's broke off. These things get old, they get brittle. I didn't break that, it was already broke. Then you got these 3 bolts. We'll tighten that up. And then we'll put the hoses on. And then we'll put the transmission cooler lines on. And that'd be it for this part. Alright, so on the radiator hoses, you got this one. Goes right there. That one goes right there. Then you got one down here that goes to the bottom of the radiator. And sometimes that one hooks to an oil cooler too. I've noticed on some cars before it goes back to the radiator. I've seen that. And then you got your 2 heater hoses over here. And this heater hose goes in the top. And that heater hose goes right there in the bottom. Then your overflow is going to go on the top. And your steam pipe, the rear of the heads, is going to go right there on this bottom one. Back of the heads goes there, overflow goes right there. And I'm going to go down there and hook up the bottom one. I'm going to take the thermostat out and fill the block up with water. Alright, I hooked up that radiator hose to the bottom of the radiator there. And then while I was down there, I plugged in the fan harness for the fans, and then I tightened up my transmission lines. Now, usually these transmission lines, they run to the radiator. One runs right there, and then one runs to the very bottom. And those metal lines, they are a pain in the butt. If you do a lot of work on your car, do yourself a favor and get the braided lines. Those are way easier to work with. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna wait on that because I've got to cut that. I got it too long. I'm just going to use a screw clamp on that. But yeah, I have to make it a little bit shorter. Which I knew that. I knew it was going to be shorter, but I cut it long just in case. And then this one for the overflow is going to go up here, but I'm going to put that on last. I'm going to go ahead and pop this thermostat out, fill the block up. So on this antifreeze, I always buy the concentrate, because this is the same price as the 50/50, but this is pure antifreeze. So you mix this yourself and you get 2 for the price of 1. They're charging you double just to mix it. So I buy it by the concentrate, and then I just I'll pour this whole thing in there, and then I'll pour a whole thing of water. And then I'll do the same thing with got 2 of these. I'll probably pour half of that and then half water, and then whatever's left. But yeah, I just mix it myself and save 15-30 bucks. This is the same price as the 50/50, whereas the 50/50 you'd have to buy 4 of them. 15 bucks a pop, that'd be 60 bucks. If I only needed 4 gallons, I only need 2 of these, and then 2 gallons of water, 30 bucks. All right, as you can see there, I got it pretty much full. Took about 2 gallons. But when you do it that way, it puts it in the radiator too. I'm not sure. Probably won't be high enough to see, but yeah. We'll put the thermostat and the neck back on, put the hose back on, and then we'll fill the rest of it up from the radiator. All right, I put that back on. That don't use a gasket. That don't use Permatex or a gasket, there's a rubber ring around the thermostat that seals that. Ran that hose over to there, put my overflow in the top hose, and then I filled the radiator up. Now, when I start the car, you'll have to bleed it. But let's go ahead and put the cold air intake on, intake air temperature sensor, and the vent for the Opti. Oh, and the MAF sensor. All right, I got that part on. Opti's going to go there. Intake air temperature plug-in's going to go there, and the MAF plug-in's going to go there. And that's it. Besides plug-ins for the car. Now we can just throw the cold air intake down in that hole and run it over there. It is a good idea to take this MAF off and clean the element down inside there with some carburetor cleaner or something like that. And I'll probably do that. But yeah, we'll go eat, finish this up tomorrow. Really the only thing left I have to do, I hate these headers, is figure out a way to run that wire that goes down there to everything. Maybe I can, I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but we'll figure it out. But look at that, it's stuck between the header and the body, and that's where it goes. I mean, there's no room behind there, there's only room up here. But yeah, I don't know. Also, you saw my video where I took all this out. This will go through that hole right there, where that plug-in's at, and this grommet seals it. And these 3 plug-ins plug underneath the dash. If you watch my video where I took the motor out, you'll see where those plugged in at. There's 4 of them. There's this little bitty one. These go under the kick panel. This one goes up by the HVAC piece. And then this out of the wiring harness so this right here, his is broke. Luckily I still got mine off my car, but this one goes to the vents in the car. This one comes out of the wiring harness. It was the one that plugged on that lower vacuum port right there. And then this one goes back up in here. See, this is it right here. It goes back up in here and it goes to a vacuum canister down underneath, down there where the overflow coolant goes. But I'm going to pull this off because I've got the one off my car, and I'm going to put that in there. It's just a little 3-way thing. I'm going to put mine in there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If y'all have any questions, just hit the comments, like and subscribe. Have a great day.